there's another tennis story dominating all of the papers, all of the back pages, and it's the feud between Medvedev and Zverev. JG, you're the one who's the most excited to talk about this. We briefly spoke about it in the match earlier on. Can't wait to get stuck into this one.
Well, we was going to come on here and do a preview for Monte Carlo, but there is big news, and it's all about Zverev versus Medvedev. They don't like each other. It's clear. Medvedev has just beaten him the other day. Medvedev played today and went out to Holger Rune in straight sets. He looked very tired. And there was a bit of a funny moment at the end of that match, Ben. Maybe we start there with that one, because Medvedev said some strange words to Rune at the net, saying, you played unfair. At this point, you have to give it to Daniil. He doesn't take crap from no one, not fans, not players, not anyone. This man's so cold, he'll leave icicles. You have to go up a tad.
Yeah.
He'll leave icicles hanging from your ears. And this was not about Holger Rune. It was said in jest about comments Zverev has made about Daniil Medvedev, talking about how he's the most unfair player on a tennis court. Firstly, before we get into Zverev's statement, do you agree that Medvedev is a really unfair tennis player? Or in the words of Zverev, the most unfair tennis player?
No, I don't think so. I feel that he has his moments, as does everyone, as does Zverev on the tennis court. I don't think you call him the most unfair tennis player, though. I think that's a bit harsh. Maybe it's a heat of the moment thing, or maybe it's something that's been like boiling up inside Zverev over the course of their rivalry, which is quite a close rivalry, it has to be said. And I think Medvedev's sort of taking the edge at the moment. He's won the last two back-to-back. He won at Indian Wells, and he's won their first ever meeting on clay. And I think that the clay one, I think that cuts a bit deeper for Zverev, because he's supposed to be the better clay court player, and he's lost to somebody who hates the clay courts. And then he didn't have many nice words to say about Medvedev, did he? And after that one,
yeah, I think it's worse the fact that Zverev is very good on clay. He then had two chances to serve out for the match and didn't take them. And you've got a Medvedev figure the other side of the court who's had a few disturbances in the match, to say the least. We had the toilet break during the match. We had the moment where he pulled that little stick from the net and threw it on the floor. There were some strange, bizarre moments which certainly got in the head of Zverev, let's be honest. And he has been so rattled ever since. I can understand why he does say that Medvedev is a bit of an unfair player, because I would say on the spectrum, he's not the fairest, no. And he does do a bit of gamesmanship from time to time. And he's the first person to come out and admit it. But coming from someone like Zverev, it doesn't really sound great. It's like me coming out here and just saying something like, I can feel like I can be a little bit arrogant sometimes on the podcast. I can't really then attack you for being arrogant, because when I do it, it feels a bit like that. And when I say arrogant, I come on in, I gloat about my picks. If you were to come out and gloat about your picks, I can't really say too much, because I did the same thing.
This is it. I feel that Zverev, out of anybody, is probably one of the worst people to try and criticize Daniil in this way. Unfortunately, he's not been in headlines for many good reasons, and been in the headlines for a lot of bad reasons, Sasha Zverev. So he needs to sort of try and, up the public opinion of him, and by just going after somebody who, I feel that Medvedev has quite a lot of fans on the tour nowadays. Even though he divides opinion, I think that he's a likable character. And the stuff he's doing, he's not smashing rackets. He's not hitting umpires. Yeah, not as much.
Not yet.
But he's doing little weird things. I mean, he did kick over a camera at one tournament.
I think he does cross the line at times. But let's actually hear what Zverev had to say. So we have got the quote. Let's go through it word for word. It is quite a long one, but we've got Ben Rothenberg here summarizing it, saying, and the question what he was asked was, how do you feel after the match? Zverev said, shit, that's absolutely clear, but it is what it is. For me, it's very, very bitter that he's really an outstanding tennis player. We don't even need to talk about that. He's one of the best tennis players in the world, but he doesn't win with tennis. He is one of the most unfair players we have in the world. He tries to do everything when he's behind. He did it in Indian Wells. He did it here. I'm just extremely disappointed about that as an athlete because I take fairness and sportsmanship very, very seriously. Does he? Unfortunately, he has none of that. The rivalry we have is incredible. We've played each other so many times, but one of the reasons why Roger and Rafa were so popular, I thought it was interesting he didn't mention Novak, and the rivalry was appreciated all over the world was because they were always fair to each other. And unfortunately, you can't say that about him, and that's just a real shame for me as an athlete.
Wow. Do you feel that I've been thinking about obviously the way their careers have gone. And do you think the word bitter really stuck out there for me? And I feel that he had an opportunity to win the US Open. He had 2 sets to love lead against Dominic Thiem and lost the US Open. Daniil Medvedev won the US Open in straight sets against Novak Djokovic, denying him the calendar slam. That I think might grind on him a little bit. The fact that he could have been that guy, and unfortunately, he's not that guy. And he's been unlucky with some injuries, sure, but he has come up short against big players time and time again. It's not to say that he wouldn't have got there. We thought maybe he might beat Rafa last year, but unfortunately, injury struck in that match, and we'll never know. And this is the thing. I feel that he's taken out a little bit of his own bitterness of how his success maybe in the sport so far, in that he's taken it out on Daniil a little bit here, I feel.
Coming to his defense, which I never thought I'd be saying on the
Whoa.
podcast because I'm actually a big Medvedev fan, as I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
This is just after the match. It's in the heat of the moment. I mean, we all say crazy things just after you've lost, which you don't necessarily mean. Look at Medvedev as a prime example after he lost the Australian Open, talking about how he's fell out of love for the sport and he hates the sport, doesn't want to play anymore, blah, 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 blah. He was back the next event playing well. Well, wasn't straight away, but he still started playing tennis again, and he's still at the top level competing and playing some of his best tennis. So let's take what he says with a pinch of salt, a bit like Novak after his interview in Monte Carlo. I've never seen him so sad, to be honest, talking about he didn't want to talk about the match at all. He just didn't want it. He just wanted to congratulate his opponent and move on. Some would say it was a very salty Novak Djokovic as well. So it does happen. If you catch any player, an athlete who wants to win after they've just lost, it's difficult sometimes to articulate a fair and well-measured response. And I think in his defense, that is a part of this response is because of that.
I feel that the best comparison to use, and no better because we were there, would be Kyrgios Tsitsipas and that feud that happened at Wimbledon. Well, boiled up again at Wimbledon, and we had the press conferences, him calling him a bully, then Kyrgios saying, what's he talking about? He tried to hit me with the ball.
And now they're good friends, playing tennis together. They practice together. The difference is with this one, I think it's more of a sincere feud in terms of they're not going to be friends, ever. They generally don't like each other. They sort of knew each other a little bit juniors where they used to be semi-friendly, but they're never going to ever recover. And I remember Zverev when he won, I think it was Paris, and he mentioned Medvedev and Medvedev's wife in his victory speech. And Medvedev found it a bit strange because he doesn't even know him like that in terms of they weren't on them good terms. So it's a relationship that will never be rebuilt. Us as tennis fans, I think we need to just enjoy it because I like it. I love this fieriness. I think it's exciting. And I can't wait now to watch the next edition of Zverev Medvedev because we're going to get one because they're both terrific tennis players.
Yeah.
And it will be most likely in a slam, the back end of a slam, back end of Masters, because they are the top of the game. And I can't wait for it. I think it's exciting.
There's another thing that I'm thinking as well, which may be the reason that they are such fierce rivals, is their games are quite similar, and they look, the stature-wise, like they're nearly identical in stature and similar.
If they were built in a tube, it's like perfect tennis players.
Exactly. So
maybe they were made in the same factory.
Maybe, but I'm thinking, like, does he see him as like, oh, that was sort of my spiel. I was that guy who looks like this and plays like that. and now you've come in and you've sort of taken that away from me, and now you're that guy's 6'6", big serving, and now looking good on clay.
Good
So
backhands.
yeah, exactly. So there is so many similarities, and I feel that all that similarity is what's causing the clash, because they probably are. They have strong opinions, both of them, and they both wind their opponents up as well. So that's a cause for a clash.
Well, Daniil Medvedev did respond. It was a very long response. I showed Ben a segment of it earlier, but we do have one tweet of a section here from the Tennis Letter who tweeted it out. And it reads, I usually feel bad when something on court happens. Sasha is living in his own world. Sasha is not like Casper, not like Diego, not like Andre. When he says someone is not fair play, you're like, okay, great. Look at yourself in the mirror.
And this picture, I think, looks like they're good buddies there in that picture, just staring at each other, probably just having an exchanging pleasantries there. Both wearing blue as well, both the same height, both similar sort of hair, all blustering all over the place. Yeah, I feel that Daniil knows how to get under someone's skin as well. That's one thing he's very good at.
Well, not just that, he knows how to defend himself.
Yeah.
It's not someone you can easily attack, is he?
Well, ask Tsitsipas.
He'll come for you, and he's got receipts. He's ready.
He said one thing once, and I don't think Tsitsipas will ever say it again, when they were very young on the tour, when he called him a, what was it? Bullshit Russian or something.
In Russia.
Yeah, in Russian. And then suddenly wasn't anywhere to be seen when Medvedev came to the net to confront him and wanted to have it out with him. So Medvedev doesn't shy away from a fight. You got to wonder, these Russians, they all know martial arts, so I wouldn't want to mess with them.
Yeah, but anyway, let us know your thoughts on this saga. Daniil Medvedev versus Zverev. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. We will be reading all your comments at the end, so please let us know.